those are your headlines. Come Sunday and Monday morning after Saturday's 0-0 draw against Livingston. Look at the one in the middle. The dandy yawns. Just over 17,000 fans in attendance at Pittodrie who were hoping to see something slightly better and for us to get our first win. But we come away with our first point, but we are still rooted to the bottom of the Scottish Premiership table. We do have a game in hand, mind you, coming up against Dundee United in a week's time, give or take a couple of days. But the results don't lie. We're still winless. Hi everybody, a very warm welcome this Monday evening to Ali Beg ABTV. Usually we would have done this show on a Sunday night, but Andrew Budge couldn't make it last night, so we decided to postpone it for 24 hours so that I could talk to Andrew, which I've done today. So we're going to be bringing you the analysis a little bit later. What's really interesting about the analysis is we have tried to balance the positivity with the negativity. So there's plenty to take from Saturday's game, but there's also plenty still to be concerned about Saturday's game. And we now have a huge cup tie against Motherwell coming up on Saturday. And honestly, I can't believe I'm saying this, but I think this is a must-win game. I really do. I do think there were positives from Saturday's game. I thought we started brightly-ish. Then I just thought we got really sluggish, really ponderous, and had absolutely no clue what to do. Then we make a change, and I felt we looked better. I thought the balance looked better, and I thought we were going to sneak it, and we so nearly did. But there are still lots of concerns. Yes, it will take time for the new lads to gel. But they now have a full week's training to be able to do that. These guys are professional football players. I don't really buy into this notion that, they need 2 or 3 games to get to know each other and all that. I think that's a load of nonsense. You train for a week. That is when you get to know your teammates. When you train. Because you're training just about every single day for 4 or 5 hours at a time, give or take. So that's when you get to know your teammates. So by now, having had 90 minutes under their belt, I'm now looking, as I'm sure you are, for a significant improvement against Motherwell on Saturday. As we know, that is going to be a stuffy game. It's not going to be easy, the way they set up. What Andrew has pointed out is where we are seriously lacking in the final third. And what I don't get is, and you'll hear this again, it's the same narrative from Yimmy, that we know what we need to do. We know what we need to work on. We know where we need to do better. We hear it week in, week out. Week in, week out. And nothing gets done. To you and I, it is so glaringly obvious where the issues are. So what are they doing in training to rectify these issues? That's where I'm getting frustrated. So, come next Saturday, or this Saturday, my God, there has to be a significant improvement. There really has. The stats don't lie. I know that some of you are into stats, and I know that some of you are not into stats. For me, the stats tell a story. They serve a purpose. But in the cold light of day, stats don't put the ball in the back of the net. Football players do. So there still has to be a lot of work to be done. I'll bring Andrew to you in just a moment. Let's get through the housekeeping first of all. So, 7 changes to the side. Toppy came in and made his 50th appearance for the club. We had debuts for Emmanuel Guiamfe and we had a debut for our new signing on loan, Jesper Karlsson, who I thought looked great. Kevin Nisbet came in, as did Sivert Nielsen, Graham Shinney and Alfie Dorrington. Out went Nicky Devlin, Jack Milne, Antti Palaversa, Leighton Clarkson, Nicholas Milanovic after his hefty travels during the week, and also Kusini Yengi, who was not even in the matchday squad. That was the formation that he went with, the normal formation, the usual formation. And I'm wondering, will he ever change it up? Here are your match stats, which again, Andrew and I discuss in just a moment. Possession, yeah, take from it what you will. 16 shots of only 2 on target. And more importantly, we only forced their goalkeeper to make those 2 saves. Now look at the total passes. And what I've done here is I've done this on purpose. So if you look at the total passes of 474, then look at the column below. The forward passes out of those total passes is less than half. For me, that paints a picture. Less than half of our passes out of nearly 500 were not forward passes. Again, make of that what you will. Yimi did speak to Red TV after the game. This is what he had to say.
No, I think everybody is sharing the same frustration right now. We're trying to get the performance level so high that we deserve a better result, but right now we're still a little bit not really there. And this is the thing when so many fans coming here today, so many numbers, and we can't get out exactly what we want in front of them. So the frustration is shared, but it's our job. The expectation is high when you a manager or a player in a football club, and we try to be in Europe or win something every year. I still think the strong belief that this season gonna end really well, but right now we have to focus on the short term to get into the league rhythm and get the points so that we can get a better rhythm of the team. No, I think it's easy to use that as an excuse, but it's not an excuse for us. We have still the long-term project. We invest in some young players that we believe in the future. We have signed some performance players to perform right now. It's been a big turnaround in the summer. I think 12 or 13 players in and out. But right now our focus is the short term to get the points to give us the time to get a better rhythm of the team. So we know we have to do better in this part.
The post-match thoughts of the manager, Yimi Talene. As always, Alibeg ABTV is brought to you and supported by Saltire Energy, the global market leader in specialist drilling equipment rental. Not just that, they offer a number of services to the industry, including rentals, torquing, testing, refurbishment and welding. So if you're looking for any of those services, nobody does it better than Saltire Energy. Get in touch with me, I'll put you in touch with them. Okay, let's get Andrew Budge on the show. So this is about a 10-minute chat. We've shown you the positives and the negatives in this chat, and we try and balance it for the sake of being devil's advocate. So I'll get your thoughts on everything after this chat. Tell me what you think. Welcome back to the show as always, Andrew Budge. Hi fella, it's good to see you. Thank you as always for jumping on. Okay, before we dive into it, just give us your general thoughts on how we played overall.
Pretty frustrating afternoon. I thought we created enough chances to win the game, being honest. I thought we did get into good areas. I thought we had decent sort of entries into the box, but unfortunately, it's a familiar story. Our finishing at the start of the season has been really wasteful. It was good to see a lot of the new faces in. I like seeing Gamphy and Carlson. I'm surprised they started, but seeing both of them, they looked really encouraging. And a couple of positives, good seeing them. I didn't think we looked like conceding, which was good. I thought we looked a lot more solid in recent weeks, but we just really need to improve our finishing. I think we should have at least a couple of points on the board by now, and our finishing is preventing us from doing that right now. So one to improve on.
Okay, so we've got a number of graphics to get through. The first thing that we're going to look at, Andrew, is our average position map. Talk us through this and tell us why you want us to look at this.
Yeah, I think looking at average positions is a really good way just to get a sort of overview or a snapshot of what our setup is on the day. You can kind of see what sort of runs players are making or what sort of spaces they're occupying. And what's quite clear from seeing from this is we've kind of got our 4-2-3-1, and whilst the system was the same as usual, and that's sort of to the, I don't know, some people's annoyance, but the system was the same, but I've got some new additions in Gamphy and Carlson who were looking good, and also pointing out sort of Gamphy and Jensen. So that was the real width that we're seeing in the pitch there. So 28 Jensen, 77 Gamphy, really, really high and wide. And this is kind of a similar sort of pattern that we've seen from other games recently. But 81 Keskinen and Carlson, number 17, you can see they're more kind of like forwards or inside forwards, to be honest. They're not in any way being played as sort of touchline hugging wingers. Their job is to sort of be more central, link play together, and really leave the width or create space out wide for Jensen and Gyamfi. And I thought in spells, I thought it worked really quite well. We created some good crossing opportunities and had some good chances in the box, which we'll come on to later. But it was just our finishing that let us down. I would say sort of in midfield from this setup, I don't know if we needed Shinnie and Nilsson. I thought we could have maybe been a bit more expansive and potentially just played one of them with a Palaverse or a Clarkson. I thought they had a good impact in the second half. But I do like the way we set up. I thought we created some good goal scoring opportunities, which we'll come on to from the wide sort of attacking areas. And I liked the impact of Carlson and Keskinen's came in for a bit of criticism in recent weeks. I do understand that. But I thought he did quite a good job playing centrally, which again we'll come on to. I thought he linked up play quite well on the left hand side of the pitch when he drift into central areas. So yeah, I thought there were some encouraging signs from how we set up on Saturday, but as we'll come on to, the finishing just wasn't there.
Okay. One of the things that I was starting to get really frustrated about on Saturday was the lack of decent crosses put into the box. I felt we were dilly-dallying time and time again to get the ball into the box. And I was getting so frustrated with us constantly hitting the first defender. And again, not to dig individual players out, but Alexander Jensen was very guilty of this. Was it becoming a frustrating source for you as well?
Yeah, it certainly was. Jensen was guilty of that. I've got a couple of frustrating stats to say the least on this. We attempted 24 crosses on Saturday, and only two were accurate, which is appalling, to be honest. I think it was 8% accuracy, which I mean it's just really grim reading. It wasn't just Jensen; it was sort of Shinnie had five attempted, Jensen had five attempted, Carlson had five attempted, and none were successful. It was only Polvara and Knuster that actually had a successful cross, which was met by an Aberdeen player, which is absolutely amazing, to be honest. It's really, really poor. So yeah, I mean, our crosses were poor. I think we really need to improve on that. But I was encouraged by the fact that we were getting sort of good space out wide and we were creating opportunities. I just think we really need to work on our final ball. We've got a couple of good examples here to show that kind of link into what we were saying earlier about the width being held by Jensen and Gyamfi. So the first one, what we show here is Jensen on the ball out wide. This is just before a cross that was unfortunately intercepted. And in fact, it's a really good goal scoring opportunity for us here. As you can see, you've got, like we said, the wingers of Carlson and Keskin tucking in and really supporting Nisbet as a sort of box presence, making these penetrating runs in behind. And Jensen's, that creates a space for Jensen out wide, which he does really well to sort of hold width, and he's always in space. But as we said here, that final ball there is really lacking. That's a great opportunity that we should be capitalising on, and it's just intercepted. And we had plenty of shots and crosses this game, but even ones like this don't really come up on the stats. It's just really wasteful sort of a play from out wide in really, really good areas. So encouraged by this sort of play and how we set the move up. It's just that final ball we really need to work on. We've got another good example of this again, of Keskinen coming in wide and creating space for Jensen. When we go into the second graphic, you see Keskinen's on the ball there. He's almost like our sort of left forward there. That's our right winger. So I do really like that he's got that license to roam. I think that's crucial to pulling apart tough sort of low blocks like Livingston were playing. If everyone kind of stays to their own zones, they're going to know exactly where you are, and it's far easier to mark. If you've got players drifting into pockets of space and going to the opposite side of the pitch and creating overloads, it really does help sort of break some of these defences down, and that's why I do give Keskinen credit. I think he did that role quite well on Saturday, despite some sort of poor final ball. But in this example, as we said, he's kind of central, sort of left-hand side, creating that overload. And as we can see again, that creates that huge amount of space on the other side of the pitch for Jensen. All of the Livingston players get dragged over to the other side of the pitch because of the overload. Huge amount of space for Jensen to capitalise on. We go into the final graphic. really good opportunity for him in the box. I don't know if it's the pass that maybe is maybe a little bit short, or maybe Jensen should have a better touch. The ball kind of gets caught under his feet a little bit, and he kind of fashions a chance out of it. I think it's a really good save from the
It
keeper.
is, yeah.
It's amazing the ref didn't even notice, excuse me, that it was a save. I think we get
Yeah.
a goal kick
Couldn't give
for
a
that.
corner, did he?
I mean, it was clear as day. There was one as well. I think there was an offside for Nisbet that got given that he was nowhere near offside. There was some really strange calls, officiating wise on Saturday. But this was a great chance. This is why I wasn't too downbeat about the performance overall, because I think when you're creating chances like this, if you keep sort of playing like that and creating opportunities in the box like this, I think these will go in eventually. I think it's a bit of an anomaly right now that we're on no goals. We're creating decent chances like this. I think we've kind of got a clear style or pattern of play here that we're looking to create overloads and create space out wide for our fullbacks and cross. I just think we need to work on that final ball. And just as we said in this opportunity here, it's a good save. We should be scoring. Hopefully, if we keep this up, the ball will find the back of the net pretty soon. So yeah, I'm going to try and keep the faith.
You see, this is where it gets really interesting, Andrew, because I completely agree with you. You're absolutely right. But patience is running out. And we've been saying it for quite a few weeks now, even before the international break, that there is most definitely a shift in opinion. And again, over the weekend, for me, there was a seismic shift in opinion. And Jimmy keeps saying that in his post-match interviews, we need to work on this, we need to work on that. It is glaringly obvious what the guys need to work on. And I'm all for letting a new team bed in. But there is most definitely a feel of the natives being restless. And I think they've got to get this right, and we've got to take our chances starting on Saturday against Motherwell in the League Cup. Because if we get knocked out of the League Cup, I'm going to start getting very concerned.
Yeah, yeah, I do completely agree. We do need to change our form pretty quickly. But I do sort of not point the finger, but I think the players do have to take quite a lot of responsibility. Like, he puts the players on the pitch and it's their job to perform. I
Sure.
think we are getting into these opportunities. I think the players of the caliber that we do have, we should be scoring from these chances, or at least have sort of. I think we've created enough to have 5 goals in the league at least right now, and it's frustrating that through not having maybe more viable attacking options from the start of the league season, that we've not been able to capitalize on that. Plus a bit of wasteful finishing from the people we have been playing. So yeah, I'm still willing to give them a bit more patience, just with these new signings as well, bedding them in. I think they looks from early signs that I think they'll have a really positive impact. I really like Yamphy. I really like Carlson. Hopefully both can play on next week in the cup. Motherwell have looked quite good so far. I think they're playing pretty well, but I mean they don't. I think they've got a lot of draws, so
Yeah.
the league is still kind of quite wide open right now for us, having got that game in hand in a couple of weeks' time. So yeah, really need a good performance at home to try and sort of get us back in a good stead. But yeah, keeping the faith, hopefully.
Yeah. The manager can't put the ball in the back of the net for the lads, can he?
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. So yeah. Well, maybe that's an option.
Maybe someone said
These guys, because these guys aren't scoring.
Brilliant. All right, fella. Listen, thank you so much. Have a great week, and we'll see you
Yeah.
next weekend.
Cheers. See you then.
Top
Bye.
man. Cheerio, fella. Thank you as always, Andrew. So, just before we get to your comments, another gentle reminder that Alibeg AB TV is also brought to you and sponsored by Craig International, who are very much redefining global procurement. They have got offices based all over the world, and if you're looking for any type of procurement services, and trust me, they really are the best, they have many experts on hand to help you. And if you're looking for that type of service, get in touch with me, and I will put you in touch with the guys at Craig International. Right. Let's get you on. Okay. VK came on first and he says, I doubt we will get half a dozen points from our first round of games this season. Paul Donaldson said, things look really bleak just now. Lots of teams in Scotland will come up to Pittodrie and park the bus. And we simply look like we have no idea to find a way through and score. Graham Gibb said, initial delight at new signings in the team at 2 p.m. come Saturday. Exasperated when I realised 2 holding midfielders. Game went exactly as I expected after that. Paul came back to say, we're always trying to be far too intricate, and against most teams in Scotland, that doesn't work. We need to be a lot more direct. Cameron Young says, poor result on Saturday. Really hoping we can get the result against Motherwell and get to Hampden in the semis. Hopefully we can get results now as we have European games as well. Gary Milne says, like you are all saying, how can we play 2 defensive midfielders against a team with a low block? What was Jimmy thinking? Sivert Nielsen should never play for us again. I have never seen such a negative display as that. DM says, it's the same old, and it has been with Stephen Glass, Barry Robson, Jim Goodwin. Something is going on behind the scenes because under 4 manager, it seems to be the same results. Ryan Ellington says, another shocking results for the Dons. Me and my uncle were at Pittodrie, better draw than defeat, but really need to up their game against Motherwell in the Cup quarter-finals this weekend. Adam Binney says, agree with the comments here, struggling to break down defensive teams, but I thought we were unlucky not to score in the second half. Gavin Bush says, for me, Dante Polvara is our best performer yet, rarely gets enough minutes. Not only should he be starting games, but he would be my choice as skipper. He has the energy and drive that we need. Did you see the interview that he gave? So he's out of contract this summer. And he has basically come out and said on record that he's very happy here. But he needs minutes. He needs to play. And I completely understand that. And I would be fuming if we let a player go of his quality because we don't give him enough minutes. I think Dante is a really decent player. And I think this intent that the manager talks about that's lacking from his game will only come with minutes and experience. To gain that experience, he needs to play. I think he needs to play more often, I have to be honest, and I think he needs to start games more often. Some of you have asked, if we do play with a double pivot, who do we play? Who do we play in that role? For me, it's very simple. It's very, very simple. Dante on one side, Ante on the other. That, for me, should be the double pivot. It's just my humble opinion. You may agree or disagree. If you disagree, fine. Absolutely great. I have no issues with you disagreeing with me. Don't come on social medias and have a go at me because I don't go to football matches for having an opinion. Did you see that? Musical Box is on, wishing you all a good evening. Martin Smith says, couldn't believe we started with 2 holding midfielders against a team that was going to sit back for 75 minutes and then try and hit us on the break. Nielsen moves the ball too slowly. I agree. A lot of you are singing Emmanuel Gianfi's praises. So many of you were really pleased with him. I thought he looked great. Very solid. Neil Sinclair's on, wishing you a good evening. Musical Box says, have to say Saturday's dire draw was just more of the same. Kaiser's here. Neil Sinclair says, disappointed with the draw, but the new players look good. Hopeful of future games. David McLennan says, Aberdeen, good squad on paper, but need to turn into a team on the pitch soon. And for God's sake, stop playing Nielsen and Shinnie together. Paul Hannon is here. How are we doing, Paul? We didn't lose, but why did we keep going down the right when the left was more effective? And why play Nielsen and Shinnie in the centre? It doesn't work, honestly. If I was to do a poll, I've got no idea how to do it. I'll teach myself how to do it, and then maybe we can do it one night. But if I did a poll and asked the question, should we play Graham Shinnie and Sivert Hilton Nielsen together as the pivot? I wonder what percentage would say yes. Not no, but I wonder what percentage would say yes. I might look into that. Let me do my digging. Hugh Burns is here. How are we doing, Hugh? Kaiser said, with that bounty of players Talene has to choose from, how the hell are we not winning? Kaiser is suggesting, or he's asking, may be suggesting. If Motherwell put us out of the cup, that's it for Tulleen, surely. That's what he says. Martin Smith says, we needed a midfield that passed round and through their two banks of 4/5. Thought it was tactically poor by JT. We should have had two up top at home. Again, I don't understand. I just don't understand why we can't have two up top or a 4-3-3. Why? I don't get it. I don't understand why we only play one striker up front. John Bleasdale's on, wishing you a good evening. David Horn said, another game without a win, but there are some promising signs. Don't think a win is far off. As Andrew and I kind of alluded to, I don't think we're far off, but my God, that far off has got to be on Saturday. Hugh said, on another day, we win those last two matches and there's no doubt the ball is simply not dropping for us just now. But that doesn't hide the fact that despite that, JT is underperforming and he needs results fast. Neil's on, wishing you all a good evening, as is Scott Bowie. My take is he seems to be settled now on a forward and defence, but midfield every game seems to be, well, let's try this. Case in point, two holding midfielders against Livy, still can't get my head round it. Fred McKenzie's here saying good evening, as is Bruce Struthers. Robin the Bold says, the manager is always going on about learning, yet he plays the same tactics week in, week out, and it never works. As for the holding midfield, that just sums it up. David Gold is here. Elfie Dello says, good evening everyone. Yimmy needs to be a bit more flexible in his formations instead of rigidly sticking to the same tried and failing formation. Hugh came back to say Shinnie and Nielsen together is just an act of sheer folly. Barry Cool is here. How are we doing, Barry? He says, damp squib after the signings we brought in. Why does he keep playing 4-2-3-1? Red Army says, needed youth in the middle of the park, not the oldies, unfortunately. John Bleasdale says, the heartening thing is we created chances. We're going through a spell where we're not getting the breaks. However, a couple of personal tweaks and players getting, and I'm sure we'll get wins soon. VK just makes a very simple point, and he's kind of quite right. He came back and he went, Falkirk was a must-win game. I can't argue. Bruce Struthers came back to say, looking better in the last 20 minutes after subs came on, Yimmy needs to seriously look at the starting 11. Nielsen and Shinnie together just doesn't work. Oh, how unlucky was Lazatic at the end, eh? A few of you are talking about that as well. Andy Wright is here wishing you a good evening. Honestly, I can tell you right now, 75% of these comments, give or take, are all about Shinza and Nielsen starting together as the pivot. Lee Pickens says, we're going to lose Dante Polvara if Jimmy doesn't start giving him proper game time. It's insanity. He's one of the best players in the squad. We look better with him than without him. Roseanne Hannon says, our lads look like they were on the training pitch. Our passes were poor and easily picked out by Livingston, but we never lost, but still can't score. Okay. All right, Hugh, I'll read this out. Quite an interesting point. Hugh says, I can tell you the players did not train today or yesterday. He goes on to say, I think it's preposterous not to be in training on the Monday after a poor display. Okay, I take your point. I absolutely do. But I don't think... Look, it's It's at the manager's discretion when he trains the team. They are entitled to days off. They're entitled to a rest. I get what you're going to say. I get your argument back. But they are. If we had lost the game, and if we had lost the game in terrible fashion or manner, then yes, I'd have them in training the next day. Absolutely, I would. But we didn't lose the game. We didn't lose the game. We're all starting to see Yimmy now. He will only look at the positives. Yes, he's working on things that we hear it all the time. But he will only take the positives from that game. So there will be a little bit of psychology in place here. Give them a couple of days off. We go again from Tuesday. That's plenty of time to be in good preparation for Saturday. But Hugh, I do take your point. Again, lots of you are commenting about Emmanuel Gyamfi. Not many of you talking about Jesper Karlsson, who I thought was good. I like the look of him. Okay. Richard Wilkinson. Right, fella. He says, the inverted wingers can go. 4-2-3-1 can go. Shinnie and Nielsen together can go. And if he doesn't start to change it up, JT can go too. Bold as always, Richard. Hugh Byrne says, I'll tell you, I'm not going on Saturday. I'm going to watch my local amateur team. I'm bored rigid right now. Richard did come back to say, on a more positive note, Gyamfi looks pleasing, as does Karlsson. There you go. Right. A couple of other bits and pieces to do for you this evening. So, that's our next game on Saturday at Pittodrie, 3 o'clock kickoff. We will be doing a preview show ahead of that game on Friday night, and we'll have a very special guest for you on Friday. Again, with some very interesting chat, which I hope you will find very interesting. That's coming up. Right, let's do a wee bit of history for you. So, on this day in 1980, former Aberdeen winger Chris Clark was born. In two spells with the club between 1997 and 2014, Chris played just under 300 games for the club, scoring 11 goals. And on this day, back in 1982, Aberdeen's journey through the Cup Winners' Cup continued after we beat Dinamo Tirana 1-0 at Pittodrie in the first round, first leg. John Hewitt scored what proved to be the winner in the 29th minute of the game. The second leg finished 0-0. And I have something interesting for you. So, believe it or not, right, hang on. I knew that was going to happen. Right, camera, sort yourself out. Right, there we go. Right, I'm going to do this as slowly as possible because I know there's an issue with this camera. Right, can you see that? Sorry, the light's sort of shining on that. That's the original programme from that game. And which my dad got for me from the game. And I want to show you something which is really interesting. Hang on. Oh man, where is it? There it is. Right. Again, I'll try and hold it up so you can see it. I'll try and do this as slowly as I can so the camera does not pause. Okay, can you see here? Usually, the team lineups go in that column. And as you can see, for Dinamo Tirana, it is completely and utterly blank. If, this is a little shameful plug here, if you bought a copy of my European Nights book, you would have read all about that game because I did talk about that game. There was absolutely no information coming out of Tirana. You weren't able to because Albania was a communist country at the time. You couldn't get anywhere near it. What's also interesting is that Sir Alex Ferguson had to call upon people in the game that he knew and who he had been in contact with, and I'm not giving it away, spoiler alert, to find out information about Dinamo ahead of the game. You can read it in the book. And for the second leg, I also have a very interesting fact for you. There was a concept strip that was designed by our manufacturers at the time, and it was only ever worn once, and that was against Dinamo Tirana away. There is a picture of that concept strip with our goal scorers from the Scottish Cup final, who are pictured all together, crouching down in front of the club crest at Pittodrie. If you know the picture that I mean, that was the strip, the concept strip. It was worn against Dinamo. It was never worn again. Now, the reason that it wasn't worn again, and I've tried to get this actually confirmed by the horse's mouth, but I was unable to, because unfortunately that horse's mouth couldn't remember. But I got told that Sir Alex thought that the strip looked too much like Nottingham Forest's. I actually did ask him the question and he couldn't remember. You know I love my history. You know I love my history. By the way, just before we get back to... Oh, what you doing? Hang on, sorry. That's not what I wanted to do. Right, let me get rid of that, because you've just seen that. But I do want to put this in for you, which is very important, as you know. Right, there we go. Must always acknowledge my sponsors here on Alibeg ABTV, including Quipco International, who service the oil and gas industry. They have a purpose-built repair facility out of Abu Dhabi to do just that. They do a number of services which can help you in terms of your operational service if you are working in the oil and gas industry. And like before, if you need any of those services, and trust me, they are right up there with the best, all you have to do is get in touch with them. There's their details, or get in touch with me and I'll put you in touch with them. So as always, thank you to all my people that sponsor me here on the channel. Thanks for all your comments. We're going to get back to them in just a minute. And we are only 11 followers, subscribers, whatever you wish to call it, away from reaching 4,600 subscribers. I'm only 11 away. All you have to do is just click that little subscribe button. All you're doing is following. You're just following the channel. That's all you're doing. You're not paying for anything. You're just following the channel. If we can get up to 4,600 by the close of play today, you will make this lad from Newborough a very happy chappy. And then we can kick on to 4,700. Right, let's get back to your comments. Okay, gosh, there's so many of you on. Xandamore AT says, I think Yimi has a handful of games before the fans turn on him. He needs to get us going. I hope we don't have to sack yet another manager. I agree. For me, it will do nothing. But he needs to sort himself out, and quickly. Robert Fowler said, yes, our crosses were poor, but I do think our forwards need to make an extra effort to get to them before the defender. Yeah. Hey, listen, I absolutely agree with that, Robert. The lads have got to take responsibility. It's like what I said with Andrew. The manager can't come on the pitch and put the ball in the back of the net for them. That's up to them. And they've got to put themselves into a position to be able to score the goals. But the service, they need the service to be able to do that. And unfortunately, on Saturday, the service was quite simply not there. Gordon Keith Ritchie says, evening all, same old story. We need to score when on top. When we're not getting any luck, we need a break and get a win, then build from there. Come on, you Reds. David Gold said, Jensen is hopeless. Devlin is the better option. Gyamfi looks good. Final balls are terrible. Lack of service to Nisbet. Nielsen, don't get me started. Jason Campbell is suggesting that we play 2 up front, more options for a forward pass. It's not rocket science. It's not, mate. You're quite right. Nicky Squire says, I dread to think what will happen when we start our European campaign. I just hope we don't get embarrassed. Robin the Bold said, once again, we hear him talking about a long-term project. When are we going to see some progress? 5 wins in 31 is not progress. Is it 5 out of 32 now? Yeah. Grim Finlayter said, sadly, really struggling to get behind JT. Needs to turn around. 5 wins in 32. Rank rotten. Rank. When will this horrible run end? Philip Palmer says, broken record now from Yimmy. Everyone in the golf club groaned when the team was posted. Shinnie and Nielsen do not work and should never be played again. What has Polvara got to do? David McLennan said, formation aside, the squad we have should be performing better. Need players to step up and start to be positive and look to get forward at pace. The lack of pace in the transition is absolutely doing my nut in. It really is. Deary me. Right, guys, I'm going to call it a night because we're just coming up to 45 minutes. So thank you so much for coming on. So as I said, I will see you on Friday night for the review, for the preview show ahead of the game against Motherwell. I'm going to bring on a very special guest to talk about some very interesting points psychologically. We'll get that all sorted this week so we can bring it to you on Friday. So have a fantastic week. Take good care of yourselves. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like. Don't forget to follow, subscribe, push the wee button. And what was the other thing I was going to say? The wee membership scheme is there as well. If you'd like to contribute financially, you can to the channel. Your support means a huge deal to me. You've got no idea. We've got 80 signed up members, which is absolutely phenomenal. And I'm very, very grateful for all your support. If you don't want to do that and you do want to contribute to the channel, because don't forget, everything that is made here financially goes straight back into the channel. At the bottom of the chat, there's like this little dollar icon. You can contribute as little or as much as you want. I've still got 2 or 3 things in the pipeline that I'm trying to get over the line. I'm almost there, not quite, but you're going to see more changes coming very soon. Right, guys, take good care of yourselves. All the very best. Stand free.